President Tinubu travels to France.
South-South Monarchs Forum visit President Tinubu.
No plans to relocate federal capital to Lagos. Federal government assures Nigerians.
Good morning, Nigeria. Today we shall discuss political developments in Plateau State.
November last year is etched in Nigeria's political history as a lesson for posterity. In paraphrased words of one of the Supreme Court justices, sympathy goes to victims of the Court of Appeal's decisions who did not have the opportunity of a third-level case due to statutory limitation, since electoral matters are sui generis.
Now let's refresh you with the details of 16 lawmakers of the People's Democratic Party who lost their seats after an appeal court ruled that there were irregularities in their nomination and sponsorship, as well as issues with party structure in the state. Demola.
But later the Supreme Court ruled on a similar matter pertaining to the governorship appeal, explaining that nomination was solely the prerogative of a political party, and since it is a pre-election matter, it should commence from the Federal High Court within 14 days of the conduct of primary election, in line with the provision of the Electoral Act 2022. Since the Intermediate Court lacked jurisdiction, the matter could not be used to determine the outcome of an election.
Indeed, Demola, on Tuesday this week, the 16 affected lawmakers were seen on the premises of the State Assembly with a resolve to resume duties. The police drove them away from the assembly for trespassing. Now I ask, is the fate of these 16 former lawmakers cast in iron? Now, these political developments in Plateau State is generating debates on the point of law and the way forward. And this informs our focus on Good Morning Nigeria today. We thank you so much for joining us. I am Jumai Yusuf. Let me welcome back Ademola back from a well-deserved vacation. You're welcome back.
Thank you, Jumai.
Like the Hausa will say, "Life in that the sweetness is the definition."
Yes, but it's good to go for a break.
Yeah, it's
get
good
refreshed and refired.
Exactly. Now let's get high on Good Morning Nigeria. It's a good start, a good drink to start your day.
I am Ademola Adeoye. Good Morning Nigeria is broadcast live on the network service of the NTA. In a moment, we'll begin with highlights of the morning news, the business news, and much later newspaper review. Let's join Comfort, our model for the morning news. Hello, Comfort.
Hello, Jumai and Ademola. Good morning, Nigerians. Here are the news highlights. President Bola Tinubu has departed Abuja for Paris, France on a private visit. His presidential advisor on media and publicity, Ajuri Ingilali, indicates that the president is expected to return to the country in the first week of February 2024. Our federal government will support public-private partnerships aimed at creating dignified work and employment opportunities for Nigerian youths. These were President Tinubu's comments at a meeting with the President and Chief Executive Officer of MasterCard Foundation, Rita Roy. She described Nigerian youths as vibrant, talented, eager to learn and ready to compete globally. President Tinubu commended MasterCard Foundation's initiative, which aims to create 10 million jobs for young people in Nigeria, noting that the program aligns with his renewed hope agenda for economic development and job creation. Acknowledging that God has blessed Nigeria with a vibrant youth population, ready to learn and capable of competing in a global economy of the 21st century. The president said leadership is what is necessary and that the system must give hope and assurance to Nigeria's teeming youth population He also welcomed MasterCard's foundation's emphasis on digitization, recognizing the role of technology as a potent and indispensable tool against corruption. Now, the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Mohamed Ali Pate, noted the wide-reaching impact of the MasterCard Foundation across Africa and its proven capacity to change the fortunes of human capital development in Nigeria. Presidential advisor on media and publicity Ajin Gilali also explained that the MasterCard Foundation CEO Rita Roy informed the president that the foundation's focus on education and financial inclusion in Africa, especially in Nigeria, aims to impact 30 million young Africans by 2030. Our traditional rulers in the South-South geopolitical zone being assured of the current administration's commitment to addressing their concerns over development and environmental degradation. President Tinubu gave the assurance while addressing members of the South-South Monarchs Forum when they visited him at the State House. Our federal government has reiterated that President has no plan to relocate the country's federal capital territory to Lagos State. This is in reaction to some rumors making the rounds misinterpreting the decision of the Central Bank of Nigeria to relocate its Department of Banking Supervision to Lagos and the directive of the Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace Development that the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria FAN should relocate its head office back to Lagos. In a statement signed by Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, it says that there is no iota of truth in interpretations given to the directives in some quarters and the unfounded claims and rumors that President Bola Tinubu is planning to relocate the Federal Capital Territory back to Lagos. And he said those behind the renewed sordid narrative using the recent decision of the CBN and FAN as pretext to start another round of toxic opposition are dishonest, ethnic and regional champions trying to draw attention to themselves, noting that the status of Abuja as the Federal Capital Territory has come to stay because it is backed by law. Now, former Governor of Anambra State, Willie Obiano, has been arraigned before the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja. Willie Obiano, who was arraigned on 9-count charges bordering on money laundering, diversion of funds, stealing and corruption to the tune of 4 billion naira. The former governor pleaded not guilty to all the 9 counts, and in view of this plea, prosecution counsel Sylvansu SAN asked for a trial date while praying the court for the remand of the defendant in a correctional center pending the date of the trial. And counsel to the defendant, Onyechi Ikpeazu SAN, drew the attention of the court to a bail application before the court. While ruling on the matter, Justice Ekwo asked the prosecution to provide the particulars of the administrative bill granted the defendant by the AFCC, stating that the court will adopt the terms of the bill. He also ordered that the defendant's passport and traveling documents be kept in the custody of the court and the Nigerian Immigration Service be notified. Additionally, Justice Ekwo ordered the defendant not to travel outside jurisdiction without the permission of the court. And the court adjourned the matter to March 4, 5 and 6 of 2024 for trial. And that's March. Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has directed the area council chairman to set up vigilance groups and ensure immediate profiling of the members. The minister gave this directive during the security meeting with members of the FCT Council of Chiefs and the area council chairman in Abuja.
We have instructed all the area councils to set up vigilantes, and we hope and believe that those vigilantes will not be the ones perpetrating the crime. Therefore, they must be profiled to know who are these people. Do we know them? Are they from our communities? So we don't go and say we want to solve problems while we're causing a problem for ourselves.
Those are news highlight for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Demola and Jume after this break.
Private sector investment in oil and gas infrastructure, experts say, will facilitate the storage, delivery and consumption of clean energy demonstrated by NESGA's development of a 50,000 metric tons liquefied petroleum gas LPG and propane depot. The federal government believes the facility will bridge Nigeria's energy demand, mitigate the environmental impact associated with traditional fossil fuels, create employment opportunities of about 100,000 jobs, boost the overall growth of the economy along the entire value chain and economic inclusion.
With what we are doing, you are sure the gas integration that we are talking about to reach out to all the nooks and crannies will be possible.
In another report at the launch of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group Macroeconomic Outlook Report, the Central Bank of Nigeria's Governor Olayemi Kadoso expects headline inflation to fall to 21.4% in 2024. According to him, the inflation targeting will help government in its battle against inflation, which hit 28.9% in December.
These reports acknowledge the possible reversal of the deterioration in the country's fiscal and external position due to the authorities' reform efforts. The anticipated moderation in pump prices of premium motor spirits, PMS, due to the expected operational status of the country's three government and private-owned refineries in 2024 is a pivotal factor in the economic equation.
The sequencing and the phasing of that transformation is important, but in each phase, we must be able to mobilize fiscal, monetary, trade, investment, policy actors to provide comprehensive, coherent, sequenced, well-bundled forward guidance.
The outlook for decreasing inflation in 2024 will have a profound impact on businesses, providing a more predictable cost environment and potentially leading to lower policy rates, stimulating investment, fueling growth and creating job opportunities. With business news, Tokbe Alabi.
Thank you so much, Tope, for the business news. Newspaper review is next.
Yeah, this newspaper review, and newspaper review is here. Chooks, good morning to you this good morning.
I am writing an exam. How are you, Demola?
Good morning.
It's cold this morning.
It is cold.
It's a beautiful morning.
It is not just cold.
I love cold.
It's a bit harsh out there.
The dust.
There's a lot of dust in the air. A lot of dust. So people have to be careful. Actually, some people are showing that it's not only COVID that deserves a mask.
No.
You know, some people have the mask, so they're filtering air going into their nostrils. You know.
I use a mask anyway. Let's quickly go to the papers. I have the Blueprint newspaper, and just above the masthead, Edo 135 killed in cult communal clashes in 6 months. That's coming from the governor of Edo State, Obaseki. Blueprint newspaper. And below the masthead, YFG introduced new conditions for passport acquisition renewal. It's coming from the Minister of Interior, Tunji Ojo. You find details on page 7. CBN boss says fuel price coming down soon. You want to know how? Find the details on page 20. In sports, AFCON Côte d'Ivoire sacked coach over poor performance. Find details on page 31. Mangu gunmen defy Mufwang's curfew. Kills 30 houses, places of worship touched. All the details on page 8. Presidency to critics. Tinubu has no plan to relocate FCT to Lagos. With riders, Dume's comments on CBN fan not Senate stance. That's coming from Karimi. And President championing national cohesion, coming from the Minister of Information, Malagi. FG project 77% increase in 2024 IGR sets 19.4 trillion naira target for FIRS, Federal Inland Revenue Service. And our focus is to improve informal sector and tax them at DDG. Nigeria seeks to expand $11.8 billion bilateral trade with India. Details on page 21. No bomb explosion in Maitama, says police. Find out on page 6. Kingmakers to Adeleke. We can't perform traditional rites on 2 monarchs for 1 stool. Want to find out? Go to page 10. Yamala?
Okay, I have with me the Leadership newspaper, and above the nameplates, Afenifere removes Ayo Adebanjo as leader. That story is on page 7. Olaide Adelami emerges Ondo Deputy Governor. The story is on page 8. And below the nameplates, trending gunmen kill 30 in Plateau attacks. Prices of medicine may hit 900 billion in 2024, and they're just like you might read in the blueprints that the federal government has restated that there is no plan to relocate federal capital to Lagos. That story can be found on page 7. More bloodshed in Benue Plateau as gunmen kill 55. Attacks premeditated. Don't sleep with 2 eyes closed, says Governor Mufwang. Plateau Group accuses military. Northern leaders prefer solutions. That story is on page 4. Intercity transport fare rose by 86.40% in December. Mother Chidimma confessed to spiking Atagas drinks. Police, that's on page 7. AFCON Odegbami Lawal caution Eagles against Cameroon. The story is on page 31. And the 2 pictures that we have on the front page, Vice Chairman Leadership Group, and the other one is presenting Leadership Award to one of the nominees. Chooks, we talked about this Benue crisis yesterday, and the
Plateau.
The Plateau crisis yesterday.
Yes.
This thing has resurfaced again.
Yes. Despite the curfew,
yes,
violence is still ongoing.
We have to be careful. Yeah, we'll keep on talking about the Plateau crisis as long as it persists.
It's really sad,
but
and very
it's about
worrisome.
time we counted our teeth with our tongue and behave accordingly and behave like organisms which must preserve themselves. You understand? Peaceful coexistence is the eventual target of everyone that wishes Plateau well.
Yes.
How the elders of Plateau, you see, yesterday Claire was saying that the military presence and all that. And I said, 1 million policemen cannot rein in a community of 250,000 people.
No.
If the people do not believe in law and order.
That's just the thing.
The man who taught me news writing, there was a piece he wrote when we were in Delta Broadcasting Service, Bendel Broadcasting Service. He ended the piece this way: those who fight to the finish usually end up finishing themselves.
Yes.
Plateau people, please do not finish yourselves.
Beautiful Plateau.
Beautiful Plateau.
Beautiful Plateau has been plundered, raped, ravaged.
They live ordinary lives, my kind of people.
Place.
They are not trying to prove anything to anybody. You just exist happily there. Let them retain that attitude, please.
It's sad.
I always analysis you want to do about Plateau anymore.
Yes.
It's an appeal. It's appeals.
Appeals from all quarters.
Please don't fight to the finish. Those who fight to the finish usually end up finishing themselves.
It's a sad situation. I always loved going to TV just to go and enjoy just the environment.
The place is heaven on earth. It's a wonderful place. And the food you eat there, usually cereals based.
Yes.
You enjoy yourself.
Even the weather. Yes. And
I was at West of Pines there.
Yes. I don't know what happened.
It's unfortunate. I remember a particular day when I had to call in the security forces. They almost joined me among the people to be lynched. When I said, they're killing a young motorcyclist there. As at the time they arrived, the whites of his eyes were beginning to show. I couldn't believe that human beings could just... No. It's not right. It's just not right. We have to retreat from the brink we're taking ourselves to.
They must come back to the table.
We must. We don't have a choice.
Peace. They have no other place to go. That is their home. If they destroy it, where do they go?
They need to dialogue.
They need to dialogue. There's need for dialogue.
Anyway,
let's do a little sports. Shego Degbami, the wonderful man on the pitch.
And Lawal as well.
Yes, they are saying that Nigeria is likely to ride easily over
Cameroon.
I don't know what is basing.
I don't want them to be overconfident on that.
They say
they are calling for caution. Actually,
okay.
They are calling for caution.
Well, the headline I have here is that Shego Degbami is saying that they will beat find Cameroon a bit easier to beat. Well, what I need to let us know is that these people will call the giants of football in Africa are no longer necessarily the giants of football. There are no minions.
AFCON 2023 is a surprise.
No underlings anymore.
No.
Football is becoming unpredictable
these
days.
Yes.
I mean, imagine Cape Verde.
Yes.
Demolishing all the giants.
Oh, yes. I mean, because there are no minions in football anymore.
I'm telling you.
It will be unfair. Make me find you trouble small. Now watch elections. I saw something there.
Yeah, now watch elections.
I said, I go find you trouble today.
I was there live.
Look, if journalists cannot hold elections in a peaceful manner, what right do they have to molest? I'm using that word.
Or to criticize.
Criticize. Okay, yeah.
An election, brings stipulations that were not there in the first place. This is a small union, and yesterday a statement came out that they wrote a statement and copied the Inspector General of Police and the DSS. What does that mean in such a small election meeting? Now watch.
Supposed to promote the tenets of democracy. Where is your own internal democracy then? I wrote a piece to a journalist WhatsApp platform appealing to them to sheathe the sword.
Yes.
That's a different case entirely. Only two people have replied. Majority of the people are not telling me that there are signs that they want to move to the level I'm pleading that we get to.
Yes, even yesterday one of
journalists.
We are journalists. We should be above par. You understand? Because we are the gatekeepers of the country. We are the gatekeepers. So when something like this happens and you write a letter, a statement with strong words.
What exactly is the problem?
At the election, the stipulation came in at the last minute that everybody who is going to vote must bring his own ID and NUJ ID card. Most people don't have it. NUJ has not even issued ID card in the past 2 years. Some people have paid and they've not received it. It was only yesterday they were saying that some ID cards are at the headquarters of the NU. They should go and check whether theirs is there. But it was not used during the president's election. Now, what president election? The NUJ stipulation did not come into play.
Nigerian journalists are...
And then, yes, the Congress is above anybody. So the Congress came together after there was a stalemate, so we cannot have a vacuum in the union.
Our time is almost up, but it doesn't stop choose the boy from finding more trouble.
Yes.
Is there that subtle division between print and electronic people? We had it in our time.
Well, I think it's there. I think it's there because the print is taking the issue further, and then that's why we need to talk about it.
That was what happened in my time.
Yes. That letter, yesterday we said that letter should be withdrawn because it was like a threat to some members of the union. It was like a threat. You cannot copy the DSS and the IG. What happens now during election?
People contested, Jumai?
Basi from NTA and from information sector.
NTA is involved.
So unfortunately, they don't know the workings of NTA. They just saw people, they saw numbers, and they felt we imported people from NTA has various newsrooms, not just people on TV. Yes,
which later became a Dole and Delta Broadcasting Services. Oshomole had to come down to Benin City to separate our fight. Journalists have to show a good
This will not come to that. I'm sure that the president, who is a mother and a sister, will look into this and find a solution to the impasse right now. Thank you so much, Chukwudi, for coming.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure having you.
It's same here, being with you guys. Always a pleasure.
So we take a break. When we return, our conversation will begin. Don't go.
Emi Ajayi.
Last November, the Court of Appeal sacked 16 members of the Plateau State House of Assembly, 5 members of the House of Representatives, and 2 senators, all of whom have vied for the offices on the platform of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, over a pre-election matter. The appeal court explained that the party in the state lacked the structure to sponsor candidates in the last general elections. The sacked lawmakers had claimed that the Supreme Court judgment, which validated the election of the governor, had also qualified them to remain members of the assembly. This became a controversial issue, especially knowing well that the concerned sacked members of the state assembly insist they resume with their colleagues. After the 2 months recess of the assembly, the sacked members stuck through to their determination as they resumed when the House reconvened. 8 members of the House of Assembly sat, and after the sitting, the Speaker addressed the sacked lawmakers, urging them to maintain the status quo until all legal measures are explored, but they insisted that the Supreme Court had faulted their sack. Armed policemen tear-gassed the sacked members who had arrived at the Rayfield Old Government House in Jos alongside their supporters preparatory to their resumption of plenary when the incident happened. The policemen and other security operatives took over the premises of the government house and prevented the sacked lawmakers from gaining access to the chambers of the House of Assembly, but the lawmakers vowed not to vacate the premises. The Speaker of the House of Assembly, Gabriel Dewan, had reiterated that he had a court injunction to recognize only 8 members of the Assembly. Now, what does this pertain for the country's democracy? What is the implication of these in a state if allowed to linger? These are some questions begging for answers from guests already seated in the studio.
Thank you so much, Emi Ajayi. And to begin our conversation, our guest is here in the studio, and we have some other guests that will be joining us via Zoom in the course of the conversation. Now, let's welcome Gregory Tonuberi Boagi, lawyer and public affairs analyst. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you. Compliments of the season.
Same to you.
Okay, let's begin our conversation with Gregory while we await other guests. You have heard the situation in Plateau and the crisis that is brewing up there. What does the law say actually about the situation in Plateau, and is it in line with the verdict of the appeal court on the 16 lawmakers in that state?
Good morning, Nigerians again. Well, the issue in Plateau is one of those fallouts of democracy, and to that extent, we must look at it from that perspective. Fine. The 16 lawmakers that have been sacked by law, that is what the Constitution says. They remain sacked. Because by our constitutional architecture, we have different layers of court. And from the tribunal to the Court of Appeal, the law says that election matters for National Assembly members, state houses of assembly terminate at the Court of Appeal. So whatever decision that comes up at the Court of Appeal remains final by virtue of section 426 subsection 3 of 1999 Constitution. So to me, as a lawyer and those and other like minds like me, our brothers and sisters in Plateau should remain calm and work with the situation. That's my position.
You mean that there is no other way for them? That is a dead end for them?
Yes, right now. that is what the law says. That is what the law says, that the decision of Court of Appeal in the election of Houses of Assembly, State Houses of Assembly and National Assembly is final. So any attempt to impute anything that is aligned to our Constitution, it means amending the Constitution. And you cannot amend the Constitution by protest, like what is happening in Plateau.
But we had a similar scenario in 2019 with Zamfara State, where the Supreme Court gave the victory to the PDP, and the APC and the governorship candidate of the ABC were ruled out. What makes this case different from that of Zamfara?
Yeah, it's different because, one, the election of Zamfara, the elements are different. The elements are different. In this case, this is a case emanating from election petition that terminates a tribunal at the Court of Appeal. And the law says very simple. Bring your Constitution here, section 246, subsection 3. Say decision of Court of Appeal is final on the election of State Houses of Assembly and National Assembly. Okay. We cannot stay here and amend the law. That is it.
Okay. So in other words, what line of action do you think the lawmakers, can take?
One, the lawmakers should get set for new election to 2027. There's absolutely nothing they can do, because if they now go back to court now, that would mean abuse of court process, which is not allowed by our law. They can't do it. What they should do, because even in Plateau, all the brothers and sisters that are affected by this, they are all brothers of the same family. Yeah. What keeps them together is more than what drives them apart. It's just because of different party labels. It may, to some extent, work good for Plateau people, because in this arrangement now, PDP is not in the minority. They will not put enough check on the governor to do what he's not supposed to do properly.
But what would senior advocates of Nigerians, human rights lawyer Femi Falana, have faulted the comment of the Supreme Court lordships that said, when they talked about the House of Assembly case while delivering the judgment on the governor of Plateau State, Muswan, and he says that the lordship should have refrained from commenting according to section 246 subsection 3 of the Constitution, since the case was not before them. And it has caused a lot of confusion, because the lawmakers now felt that, okay, the Supreme Court has said something, we should go to the House of Assembly and do our job. They got there, the police kicked them out with tear gas and told them that they are not supposed to be there. So why was it mentioned during the, we had the same problem in Kano, when the appeal court said something, and then the Kano government said, okay, based on that, we're going to the Supreme Court. And they went to the Supreme Court and got the win. So experts are saying, senior advocates of Nigerians are saying, the Supreme Court lordship shouldn't have mentioned the case of the House of Assembly members at the ruling of the governorship candidate.
Well, I have so much respect for Femi Falana because of his sight and elegance in legal scholarship. But I strongly believe that he doesn't have the power to determine the extent the Supreme Court justices will speak. They have the leverage, they have the latitude to deliberate on the issues before them. And by extension, I believe they can make it in form of an obiter, which to me, I don't think they've made any mistake by making any comment on that. But I respect Femi Falana. I respect his views and his height and elegance in legal scholarship. But he doesn't have the latitude to dictate to Supreme Court justices on the extent they will speak before in the line of duties.
Yes. Yeah. And there's also calls that the National Assembly should look into the decision of the tribunals and the appellate courts on the 2023 with a view to amending some parts of the Electoral Act and relevant provision of the Constitution to ensure that election, when it comes, the electorate vote the person they want, and the decision shouldn't be left to the judges.
Yes, I think we should be guided properly. We should be guided properly with that statement you've just made, because let it not be interpreted by our brothers and sisters in Plateau that sitting coming up now will now make them members of House of Assembly. They are no longer members of Plateau State House of Assembly by law. But if they are going to sit down and look at it in form of constitutional amendment of our laws, fine and good. They are going to look at the errors that necessitated this arrangement, this development, this scenario we have on ground right now. But those people are no longer members of House of Assembly in Plateau State by law.
So if there are irregularities,
okay, go ahead.
Who will challenge these irregularities in court? Who has the right to go to court and challenge these irregularities? Is this finished, finito for them?
Yes, on this very particular matter, it's finished. They can only take it to heaven.
Their reward is in heaven. That's what.
That is what God will tell them is what is obtainable.
But there's also, I was reading up yesterday, some experts have said that they can go to court and fight for their salary in the next 4 years since they were elected by the people.
No. That is wrong. The wrong interpretation of the law. The issue is this: we Nigerians, especially the political actors, gladiators, should make use of sound lawyers that will advise them properly. Because part of the problem here is the interpretation of the law. That's the problem here. They should be guided by informed opinion of law. Because how do we do it? Would they not go back to the court? The law says that election petition must conclude in 180 days. Are they going to expand it? No. The case of Guni and ANPP is there. Susan and Agbo is there.
Jagede is there. Yes.
Supreme Court has sounded. In fact, there is a position that says that the expansion, that the 180 days is the amount of Mount Zion that cannot be shifted. You can't expand it. You can't expand it. It's there. Those are brothers and sisters in Plateau. I keep saying it. They should see themselves as brothers and sisters. Remove politics out of law and work together for the benefit of Plateau people. Innocent people, innocent orphans and widows, boys and girls are waiting for them to deliver their promises.
Yeah, they should focus on their promises. That is what you're saying now.
Yes, but develop Plateau State. Okay, the state is already boiling.
It's boiling because of some of these issues that are arising there. But right now, some people are saying that, can we apply the doctrine of necessity in this instance to be able to correct these irregularities?
The doctrine of necessity doesn't come clear. The law is very clear. The constitution is very clear. Why bringing the doctrine of necessity? The constitution is very clear. What do we do? Apply the law. What is important in the law? We interpret it the way it is, not the way it ought to be. Remove sentiment and emotions of law. So in subsequent elections cycle, they will not correct the ills of this particular election. But for this matter, it's settled.
It has been concluded.
Yes. They should leave the assembly. Those PDP brothers and sisters should go back home, re-strategize for 2027.
Now, there's something that I read in the Leadership newspaper, which I want to bring to you. It said in one of their stand, it says that what is happening in Plateau reveals gaps in our institutional framework that allow technicalities to trump equity and substantial, justice. In that sense, which means that there is need for us to revisit, the Constitution. What is your take on this?
The Constitution is the basis of our law. Do you understand me? The Constitution is the grand norm of our. But sometimes this Constitution is not perfect. It's a working document. So in the course of our development, we'll be amending it in tandem with our current realities. So that is it. So there's nothing we can do right now.
In this instance now, because of the situation, I mean, the people have voted for their candidates, their choice. Now, this court, due to one reason or the other, made a mistake in its judgment, all right, which is erroneous, like the Supreme Court said. Now, how do you protect the right of the citizens? Because, I mean, it brings to question the integrity of the judiciary. All right? So
the only way we can bring sanity to the system is by going through constitutional amendment of our laws, our electoral laws. That's the only way we can do it.
No, because there is need for us to restore the public confidence in the judiciary now.
Confidence
with what is happening now and all that. So
public confidence will only come in through the way and manner our politicians act. People who are saddled with state responsibility act in a manner and way that will align with the expectations of the people over a period of time.
Okay.
So that's the only way we can restore confidence in our people.
So on the largest, politicians must wake up and do the right thing, because all this thing is as a result of their misbehavior. Actually, let me use that word, because most of the issues that we have had in the time past has always been either the politicians or the political parties. You understand? Because this actually is the problem of the political parties, just like the Supreme Court said. So how do we now begin to right the wrong?
Well, righting the wrong in this instance will take a bit of time. It's never a thing that can be done overnight. It's going to go through the process of amendment of our laws. And though, if you look at the political system in Nigeria, overvaluation of political positions is part of the problems of Nigerian politics. Because the return on investment in political, or the return on political investment is so huge to the extent that anybody is ready to do anything for that position. So those are the problems.
So let's look at it
but these things will be corrected with time.
With time.
Yes. Let all of us be patient and believe in our unity, believe in our democracy, believe in our institutions.
Now, look, if you look at what is happening in Plateau State now, despite the curfew that the state, government has, placed in the local government, you understand? But there is still crisis. You understand? People are killing themselves on a daily basis in Plateau now. So what do you think is responsible for this? Would you allude this one as part of the reasons for all this crisis that we're having in Plateau State?
Well, Plateau was boiling before now. Plateau was boiling. There is political undertone in what is happening in Plateau. It's not all about the Supreme Court or Court of Appeal judgment. It has been boiling. The Plateau people need to come together and say no to this level of killing. They have a stake in each other. They should stop killing themselves. What keeps them together is more than what drives them apart.
Okay.
They are brothers and sisters. They should live together. And another thing Nigeria should do, they should remove politics from law. Don't bring politics into law. Law has nothing to do with politics. It's based on rules. And what the Constitution and what the enabling law is saying. So that's the position.
Okay.
Plateau people should come together and believe that we don't need to kill ourselves. There's still another election. If by law it happened in Zafra, did they kill themselves? The answer is no. I sympathize with them. I have my heart bleeding for them.
Okay.
But we can't do anything. That's what the law says. Because any attempt to now bring them in now, it will amount to amending the law, which they cannot do. Is beyond their power. It's only the National Assembly that has such powers.
Now let's look at it from a larger scale. The implications of a situation like this in a society like Nigeria. We have a lot of dimensions to our society: ethnics, religious, and all that. And the judiciary is on trial here now. The Supreme Court clearly spelled out the sins of the appeal court here in its judgment. So will there be some house cleaning, or who will be doing this in the National Assembly in the national interest of the country? Should there be house cleaning on how judgment should be passed, and because every Nigerian now, every talk, even on the social media, is on the judiciary. Some are applauding them and some are saying that they didn't do the right thing. It's a judicial trial now.
No, judiciary, yes, of course. Yes. But let me say something.
Yes.
The judiciary is a self-regulating organ of government. They have a way of disciplining their members that the National Judicial Council is there. They look into all these things and they will sort themselves out. That's the way I look at it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, yes. I really want you to talk on the public opinion of the judiciary. There have been a lot of talks, not just now, it has been ongoing. What judiciary says, they will call some governors, it's a Supreme Court governor. We didn't vote him, the Supreme Court gave him to us. So the public opinion matters, doesn't it?
The public opinion matters. I know there are 1 or 2 judgments that didn't sink well with Nigerians in recent times. But that's not to say that the judiciary have not done a lot of good jobs. We are still together today in Nigeria because of the effort of our judiciary. So we should give them a credit. Look at the position of Supreme Court. The Supreme Court affirmed their original position that issues like this supposed to have gone through the normal court, it's a pre-election matter, which the court says pre-election matter, which is not supposed to be the responsibility of the tribunal.
Do you
understand? And they made it very clear. They stood by their original position, which is a credit to them. We should recognize that.
So how can the political system in Nigeria ensure the protection of the rights of elected representative?
How can
the political system in Nigeria ensure the protection of the rights of elected representative while maintaining effective governance?
Is by playing according to the rules of the game, rule of law. So many Nigerians, so many politicians, they don't obey this law. Do you understand? There are a lot of lacunas, a lot of loopholes in that law.
Let's talk about the lacunas. Tell us about it.
These are loopholes, shortcomings in the law that one can capitalize on it and commit havoc or things that are not supposed to be done within it. And you still go scot-free because there's a loophole, there's a window of escape for him. I'm not here to itemize all the lacunas in our laws or electoral laws.
In this particular case, is there a lacuna, an existing one there?
Yes. First, the matter was a pre-election matter. It wouldn't have gone to election petition tribunal. It's supposed to have gone through a normal court. Meaning it wouldn't have ended.
Okay,
those are brothers and sisters in the State House Assembly and National Assembly that are affected by this decision.
Yes.
They are assuming it went through the right channel of High Court. It will have gone up to Supreme Court.
Okay.
That's a pre-election matter. It will have gone on because brothers on their right.
Yes.
But in this scenario now, they made the mistake of going through the election petition tribunal, which the law says that it will terminate at the Court of Appeal.
Yes. But is it not the place of their lawyers to advise them on issues like this?
Well, how can we now stay here and say they didn't advise them? They might have been advised.
And they didn't listen.
Okay, we have our guest from Lagos via Zoom joining us. Sam Eleya is the Executive Director, Center for Republican Law and Policy, and also an editor, publisher. You're welcome to the program, Mr. Sam.
Thank you very much.
Okay, if you have been following the conversation so far, we're talking about the issue in Plateau. What, from your own perspective, what does the law say about the situation in Plateau? And is it in line with the verdict of the appeal court concerning the 16 lawmakers in that state?
Okay, good morning and thank you for having me. I I think that what's happening in Plateau State can be looked at from different perspectives, but there is one that's in accord with the Constitution and where you want to take this country to as a republic. We are first of all a constitutional republic before we are anything else. And so if you remember that we did an amendment to the Constitution where we gave powers to the Court of Appeal, and that court was given final appellate powers to decide matters relating to the legislature across the whole country. That's federal, that's state. And whatever they do is final.
It seems the visuals of that, of the Zoom has sort of freeze. Now we'll now come back here to the studio. You have a drift of what he was talking about. Can you talk more about it?
You said the decision of the Court of Appeal is final.
Like you said,
yes, that's it.
So right now they do not have any right of appeal until probably the next election.
The next election, or when they amend the rules that guide this election.
Okay.
And
you're talking about the Electoral Act.
No, Constitution. The Constitution says that Section 246, subsection 3 of 1992 Constitution made the decision of Court of Appeal final on election to 6 houses of assembly, National Assembly members. It's final, except they amend that law and amend the 160-day given to us by our Constitution. There's nothing they can do.
But they are still insisting that they are the legitimate lawmakers that were elected by their people in their own mind. Yes,
but in the eyes of law, they are no longer members of Plateau State of Assembly.
So how will this crisis on a larger scale affect Plateau State itself and its economy? Because crisis, in the midst of crisis, nothing seems to work anymore.
When there's crisis, disagreement is part of human existence.
Yes.
But what they should know, the elders of Plateau, opinion leaders of Plateau, and political leaders should come together, see how well they talk to their members, talk to the citizens of Plateau State. Yes. Let there be peace. It's just 4 years. In the next 3 years, we'll go back to the drawing board.
The next 2 years, actually.
Do you understand me? So they should just be patient. Allow peace to reign. If you destroy your brother or your sisters today, who will vote for you in 2027? I know it's very painful.
It is painful.
Very painful. Because some of them sold their cars, sold their assets.
Took loans.
Yes. Took loans to contest election. But it's one of the radioactive fallout of election.
Okay, Gregory. I think we have our Zoom guest back now, Mr. Sam. Okay, can you continue with your conversation there?
Thank you for having me back. As I was saying, there is a duty on every single Nigerian at this point in history. And I understand that some people are, of course, understandably miffed at the turn of affairs, though we lost the election. But the point needs to be made that the courts have made very clear that the Supreme Court is final, and that the powers of finality, when it's given to any court in Nigeria, makes that court infallible, not because the people there are infallible, but because they have the final say on that. And on this matter, it is my candid view that it's a settled issue. Those of us who lost the election need to ask the next question, which is, what if by some inadvertence or by some accident of history that have been used as a guinea pig to usher into Nigeria something that will be useful to this space? Because we ask our soldiers to make sacrifices, we ask politicians to make sacrifices, we ask citizens to make sacrifices. People are buying rice at almost 70,000 naira per bag. Everyone is making sacrifices. Politicians make sacrifices. They should make one. And my contention is that the position of the Court of Appeal over this matter seems to me to be the one that is best in accord with the Constitution. And not only does it seem to be the one best in accord with the Constitution, it's also one that they have exercised within the legislative and valid powers as the final court over these matters. And so in a sense, we now have been given a situation where you have a dichotomy, a view of eternal democracy in political parties by the Supreme Court and a view of that by the Court of Appeal. And they both gave it within powers that they have legitimate rights over. So you ask, are they inconsistent? Even if they are, does that make it invalid? And that's a jurisprudential question that we have to give deep thoughts to. And my answer to that is no. Our constitution allows for principles to not align in the same direction, and yet, like spokes on a wheel that drives a bicycle, it aims to drive a nation forward. And so, in a sense, what we have at the moment is that when it comes to the governorship and the presidency, at least at the moment, they are allowed to get into their party, kill everybody in their party, beat up everybody in their party, and ask who wants to go to court. And everybody said, no, we can't fight you, Oga, move on. And so they move on, they go, and they get on. But the people through the National Assembly has decided that, no, we don't want that for our legislature, for National Assembly, House of Rep, House of Assembly. That is 109 senators, 360 House of Rep members, and then 990 House of Assembly members. When it comes to these elections, that's what I see from the decision. It is now imperative that every person ensure that they are stickler to the rules. You must know the procedure. If congresses are supposed to be held, you must ensure that they are held. Whatever needs to be done at the board, LGA level, up until the final election, every state that precedes the election needs to be done properly. If you don't follow it, you cannot be part of the election. You think about it really, you may find that there's something interesting there going on. There's something good happening that we just should not show us while we kept threatening, while we try to shoot these people and forget that something is happening here. And there's another question you want to ask. That question is, how well has the Supreme Court position served us? Perhaps it's time to put them side by side, allow the Court of Appeal position to go for a while, and see how that conduces to goodness or otherwise in that space. And then you compare the last 25 days of no internal democracy whatsoever. What all we hear from the Supreme Court is, oh, it has happened, you can't question it except you are inside there, and we know how these things go on. So my take is that let's allow this situation or decision to take hold. Let's test it. It's constitutional, it's within their powers. Let's not throw it out in haste.
Okay, I'm still going to stay with you and still on the judgment of the Supreme Court. Some call it a welcome silver lining, and they called it the Supreme Court protest. You know, that it could have been, it is time, it was better served, and Nigerians are listening, that it will help to invigorate the confidence of Nigerians in the judiciary. Because right now, like I asked Mr. Gregory here, that the judiciary is in the public court of Nigeria, and there's so much talk going about that Supreme Court judgment and the reason why the Plateau State lawmakers feel they are still part of the State Assembly, but while their court stops at the appeal court. But what is your opinion, apart from the public court opinion of the judiciary? What is your opinion? Because this keeps happening. It keeps happening. Every election year we have these cases. Should the electoral law be amended so that people can feel that the people they put in office are the ones that will rule over them?
No, I don't think so. I think we're in a country where constantly the workmen are quarreling with tools. And each time they quarrel with the tools, instead of really looking at them and say, okay, is it that they don't know how to do this work? We go and change the laws. We blame the law. We have the highest record for constitution making in the whole wide world. Check out from the very first one to the last, even the current one. Almost every lawyer you meet on air tells you one reason or the other why we should have to be on. I think that is nonsense. We need to stop that. Secondly, I think that what is happening here is a good thing. It's a good thing, again, in the sense that for the first time, we are asking the players to go back and put the house in order. PDP lost this election, and by the way, I'm not an APC member, I'm not a PDP member, I'm carrying no card. I'm saying this because PDP is the oldest political party in this country. It should be the party that we all go to go and take template from as to how to run every level of election. And 26 years after its founding, it is still fumbling in every sense of the word. And we keep on making this, it's changing the laws for it every other 4 years, or in fact every 4 years. I said we stop. I actually have a few things that I think has helped to steer people along this direction where we are always waiting for appeal. And I think it is the Supreme Court that has done this. That decision, the way they wrote it, in a sense, in my opinion, seems to be that the Supreme Court is jealous, in a little sense, over the powers that have been given to the Court of Appeal. I'm a publisher of law report. I was taking the 1900 case up to 2020 and been reviewing them. And what you find is that the land of the Supreme Court is becoming coarser and coarser every other year. When they need to disagree with the Court of Appeal with respect, they don't. They talk to them as if they're not part, as if they're not source the personnel there. CJN is not in charge of the NJC. Everyone there is his personal pick in a sense. And so they are all the same thing. Secondly, or thirdly, I want to say that the Supreme Court is acting in a way that is undermining the whole notion of financial decisions, which it is the custodian of. If it undermines the Court of Appeal in this area, it is not doing itself any favors. It needs to stand, it should have stood behind the Court of Appeal in that decision. Much of what we saw there, the redux were unnecessary. The only case that was that had decision over was that of the governor. If it were judges or justices in the 1980s or 1990s or even early 2000s, they would have carefully, with a very sharp mind, taken out the only case that pertains to the jurisdiction, that of the governor, and refused to meddle in all the other cases. And by so doing, they would simply have said, Court of Appeal knows why it has done this way, and that's final. And so I'm saying that legally or otherwise, in the public space or otherwise, what you have there should be the right thing. We all should sit down and ask, where does this take us? And we have to, in a sense, become people who do that. Court decisions are meant to provide wisdom. We are supposed to send our wise at that bench. And there's a presumption that they know what they are going to do, the state of the law, when they give decisions. But we don't do that. I have heard an SAM say that the Supreme Court used a judicial protocol on the Court of Appeal, invoking a military term. What kind of Supreme Court will do that? Another one said that perhaps because the president of the Supreme Court of Appeal is from an LGA, a former governor. That is conspiracy theory. These are things we have to avoid. Again, it's important that the Supreme Court lines up behind the Court of Appeal in these kinds of situations. It's important that those who lost the cases, who came to say want to serve Nigeria and defend the Constitution, this is the time for them to raise their hands and do what they said they want to come and do. If they can't do it because of what are they going to do when they win elections?
Thank you, Sam, for your thoughts there. You have raised a lot of issues,
especially the part that the Supreme Court is jealous,
and, and that the Supreme Court is undermining the lower court, that is the Court of Appeal, and that it shouldn't actually meddle with the judgment of the appeal court, and that it should also line up with what the appeal court has, as judgment has been given. Well, let me come back to Gregory here. Do you agree with some of the issues raised by Sam there?
Yes, I agree with some of the issues raised,
especially the jealousy.
But I disagree with him in total.
Okay.
Yeah, on that kind of position, because we should understand that the Supreme Court is a policy court. It's not all about law. It's not all about law. Supreme Court has the powers in as much as the law or the Federal Republic of Nigeria is concerned to give direction. And the Supreme Court has the powers to give direction and put Court of Appeal in line with the law. So Court of Appeal deviated, and it would have been unfair of Supreme Court to not keep quiet without making comment in that regard.
Okay.
So Supreme Court is right. was right in what he did.
So what you're saying now is that the Supreme Court is right in providing a direction.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
That's the final court of our land.
Because I mean, it is believed that if the lower courts it's wrong in its judgment, then the Supreme Court should be able to correct it. Right?
Correct it.
But what his argument is that the Supreme Court didn't have to, interfere in the judgment of the lower court concerning the House of Assembly.
Sorry, the Supreme Court did not interfere into the judgment of the lower court.
Yes.
These things, this entire procedure or process is in layers, from the tribunal to Court of Appeal to Supreme Court.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, those of our brothers and sisters in Houses of Assembly and National Assembly, State Houses of Assembly and National Assembly, maybe Senate and House of Representatives, ends at Court of Appeal. The only window that makes Supreme Court to come into this matter is that of the governor, which terminated the Court of Appeal. It was on that ground that the Supreme Court now came in and addressed the issues of law that were lacking in the judgment of the Court of Appeal. So Supreme Court is right. Supreme Court cannot sit down and fold her arms like this when the law is being thwarted. No. That's the responsibility of the Supreme Court to do that.
Okay.
Wherever anybody is calling they are bullies, Court of Appeal, or they are no, I'm not interested in that. What the Supreme Court did was right.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, another issue is that he says something that human beings, we are not infallible.
Yes.
We make mistakes.
Yes.
Now that mistakes have been made right now. So, and at this stage, how do we begin to right the wrong? Just like I asked, so that this same mistake does not repeat itself.
The only way, this is a mistake of law. Do you understand me? The only way of correcting this mistake is by amending our laws. We cannot sit down in this studio or on phone or anywhere in the beer parlor or in our meeting houses and amend the law. We must get it back to National Assembly. Maybe they will not extend the cycle of Houses of Assembly and National Assembly election to terminate at the Supreme Court. As far as this matter is concerned, in the eyes of law, it's settled issue, and there's nothing they can do. They should go back home and make peace with their neighbor. They should not go to the assembly complex and make trouble, because the law enforcement officers will not fold their arms and see like it throw into crisis.
Yes.
Okay.
So the only way we can do it is by amending our laws.
Okay.
That's the only way we can handle it.
Okay.
Okay, let's join our Zoom network now, and we need to talk about God. In Plateau State, court judgments have been significant in shaping the political development of the state. We've seen Jeremiah Lalong, we've seen Jiang Lalong, and the governor Lalong, when he came into office, was able to bring everybody on board through the peace committee that was able to stabilize the tension in the state. What role do you think the governor of Plateau State now, Mothwang, should do right now to ensure that the violence does not escalate beyond what it is? It's not just about coffee, because they're not even listening to the coffee now. The people say they want their representatives to be the ones in the House of Assembly. The court judgment does not rest well with the people. What role should the governor play now in bringing everybody to the table to ensure that there's dialogue and be able to bring down the violence?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that question about please. Can you please say something?
The role the governor should play, because we've had cases of Jiang, Lalong, Jeremiah, and Lalong, in the 8 years he was governor, was able to have a peace committee to bring all these politicians on board to be able to talk and trash out issues. What role should the governor of Plateau State now, Mothwang, be able to do to end actually the detention in the state?
If I get you right, I'm asking what role should the governor play to ensure that peace is maintained in the states? Does that summarize it? Okay. The governor is to maintain security in the state. the way given to the governor by the constitution is what is called law and order. It starts always by ensuring that you put out a message that says that the courts are right. The courts are right. If you take a partisan view of the court's decision that says you have been cheated, not everybody has the intestinal fortitude or the maturity, okay, to hold back their emotions and do what is right. And so it's important always is that a state executive understand that there is more to governance than elections. Because we know how the Nigerian behave. It's possible that tomorrow all the members of the APC who have been given who now sits in that house will just defect and move over to the other party, and suddenly you have majority without winning anyone in the first place. And so I would suggest that you just do what is common. Make sure you put it out there that the courts have spoken. That's why I'm emphasizing this. The courts have spoken, and we have a duty of obedience, even if we have reservations. Secondly, also, it is to ensure that as a party, it goes back to people. And unlike what happened in Rivers State in the past two elections before the immediate one, where a former governor led his people to miss an election twice in a row. He needs to go back and do the needful by ensuring that whatever they got wrong, that they get it right. I'm not one for sympathizing with what happened to them at Plateau State. You have no right as a political party not to conduct your congresses properly. You have no right, even when you are ordered to go and do it however you want in a haphazard way, and then dare the courts not to look inside because you think there's a principle, given by the Supreme Court that simply says courts look the other way when things are going wrong inside political parties. And as I've said before, it didn't work out. It hasn't worked out so well for Nigeria. It won't work out any better tomorrow. And so the government needs to go back and do some work, call his people together. They should start planning for the elections at least at that level right now by putting their house in order. Plateau State should become the go-to place in PDP where you can get the finest document as to how to run the nomination process. That's what normal people do in decent climes. In Nigeria, we double down on wrongdoing. We blame every other person but ourselves. The finger outward instead of looking inside and saying, what didn't we get right? How did we let the monkeys inside? So that is what I will advise you to do. Tell the people the court has spoken. It's final, it's infallible. We share responsibility for what has happened. We are going to put our house in order. We are going to bounce back. And then thirdly, we should find a way to work with the legislature as it is right now. And they too should rally around. They should remind that the only legitimacy is on how well we work with the governor. If they don't work with him properly, they will enjoy their own legitimacy. And I hope that they don't go and start growing. What they are holding is borrowed proofs. They should be humble about it and find a way to move the state forward by doing what from Plateau State. There is too much suffering and death and violence there already. We shouldn't add up to the system ahead. And finally, I want to say to senior advocates of Nigeria, those who speak on TV, please dial it down. Some of the comments are not helping at all. The idea that there is scope for an court of appeal is one that I don't think should be pursued. Let's not go there and stampede that court. Let's allow that court to be the court and do what is allowed to do under the Constitution. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Sam Eleanya, we'll take a break now, but we'll come back to you in the course of the conversation as the conversation begins to wind down. This is Good Morning Nigeria. We'll be right back.
Discussing the political situation in Plateau State. Now we're back to the studio, and before we took that break, Sam was, emphasizing the need for the political parties and the politicians to begin to play by the rule. Now, how do we now begin to restore the confidence of the public, in our democracy?
Like restoration of confidence in that democracy.
Because right now, I mean, it's like you see the situation in Plateau State now.
Yeah.
The people are so angry, and that is why they've gone to the street to start killing themselves and all that. So there is need for a quick interjection, by both governments, the politicians, the traditional rulers, and also other opinion, leaders like probably the religious leaders as well.
Yes, like in Plateau now, the sole responsibility now rests on the citizens of Plateau State to bring about peace in their country, in their states. One, this is the time the governor should remove politics. It's no longer politics. It's all about governance now.
Yeah.
They have to build consensus among themselves. Engage stakeholders in Plateau, traditional rulers, religious leaders, and opinion leaders in the state, to talk about peace. This is not the time to say you are APC, you are PDP, you are ANPP, you are Labour Party. No, it's all about governance now. The governor is at the forefront of this problem. He will now extend hands of fellowship to other party members and bring them together. This is our beloved state. Let's work together. Let's make Plateau a great place. It is the character of the PDP or the governor as it stands now that will bring about lasting peace. If he's now going there to now say, okay, I'm going to face only my PDP members. No. The state will continue to boil. Let him extend hands of fellowship to the other party members and bring in stakeholders of the state to talk and talk and talk. And let the people who are on the street to realize that, one, there is Plateau first before politics. They must live together. Make peace. This is the time for their traditional rulers to come out and talk to them. They should listen. Obey the law. The election will come and go. Plateau will remain there. If you kill them, who will be your brother tomorrow? Who will be your sister tomorrow? They need to live together. It is only by living together, through purposeful leadership, that Plateau will experience peace and progress.
Okay, talking about purposeful leadership now, what should the governor do with these lawmakers who insist that they are still part of the state assembly? What should, because he needs to interject there.
Yes, the governor will have to talk to them, but they themselves too, they should understand that the law stopped them at the Court of Appeal level, that they are no longer members of the House of Assembly of Plateau State. But there are other opportunities that can be given to them by the executive governor of the state. There are appointments that can be given to them and they be fine. They can be engaged in one. You must not be in the assembly to serve the state. You must not be in the House of Assembly of a state to serve the state, to serve the people. The entire idea of you contesting elections is to serve the people. If the law have stopped you from at that level, you can be given another responsibility somewhere and you start. It's all about service. Except if there's any other thing you are having in your mind. It's all about service. So the state governor can extend hands of fellowship to all of them, fix them somewhere. They are all stakeholders in Plateau State.
Okay, let's go to Sam now, who is in Lagos via Zoom. Sam, earlier on you said something which I also want us to talk about, the issue of that no man is fallible. That is, every man is infallible. So now the mistake has been made, a wrong has been committed. There is erroneous judgment now. How do we, in case of another event, so how do we, right the wrong to prevent such when such mistake is made?
The courts have ways of righting their wrongs when there is a wrong. And if you also remember what I said, I have maintained that I do not think that there is a wrong here. I think that there was a deliberate intention on the part of legislators to take their cases away from the aisle of the Supreme Court and the doctrines that have been praised regarding internal democracy is simply a doctrine that elevates falsehood through judicial squinting of the eyes when there is a need to say something about it. And was hurting mostly those who were in that arm of government, politicians, so-called. You want to check out the lifespan of most of them. Go check out those who were there in 1999. Check out how many of them made progress to another level of governance. Many of them died prematurely. The amount of energy and resources it takes to run for a seat in the House of Assembly of the state is not proportionate to quote unquote the reward, except if you're a principal member of the House. And so, to my mind, I think that there was a clear intention on the part of those who framed the Second Amendment to ensure that this becomes the position that people who want to contest for the House or the arm of government ensure that they follow simple rules of procedure to lower the cost, first of all, to lower the heat, secondly, to ensure that they don't have to kowtow those who need the executive arm of governance. Okay, because that's what is happening here. People tying together the governorship election with the House election. We have not been able, in a sense, to understand that in a republic, powers are discretized. Even final appellate powers can be discretized and given to different levels of the judiciary, as we have seen right now. Our own Supreme Court have not come to terms with that. That's the issue. And once they do, they realize that, as I said before, it is possible for two judicial positions to hold, but apply to different demographics. In this case, the executive, as I said before, because they have enormous powers, a lot at stake, for now, they can go there, overwhelm everybody in their party, beg them to go to court, and they say, I am loyal, and that's the end of it. But when it comes to the arm of government that represents the people specifically, the legislature represents ordinary people, you and I should be able to walk in tomorrow into a party and ask, where are your documents that I must comply with to run for election into the seat to represent my people? It should not be nuclear physics. The way, if you follow the Supreme Court doctrine, these same people will not be able to run for that arm of government, the most important policy setting platform of our nation, the arm that dictates what the laws are and ensures that the executive arm does what the law is. And so I am maintaining that there's nothing to correct it. In fact, the talk about you should double down and triple down. And I also want to, in a sense, raise an alarm to those advocates who are saying that they should, in a sense, penalize judges for doing their job to the best of their abilities. Please, again, think that is not the right way to travel. They have done the best. As known to them, judges are under the powers of God. Only God has the power over life and death, and life over what you call vengeance and retribution. And is given to judges when they sit on that throne. Nobody else has it. That's what the Bible says, ye are gods. That ye are gods is not applicable to everybody. It only applies in that context to judges. But they will die like mere men. If you don't do what is right, judges have a higher level of judgment from God that we don't partake in. And so I want us to, in a sense, stop feeding politicians this idea that something erroneous was done because the Supreme Court went the other route, their comfort zone, what they have already done, they have not given us any goodness. In 25 years, 25 years, we have been doing this false idea of a grand democracy. They know it's not being done. They will tell you, once you can comply with the so-called technical rules of justice as propounded by a silk somewhere before us saying God, then you've done everything. That's wrong. We need to allow this notion to take root. Let's test it and see if it's not better than that of the Supreme Court. If it is, we will then take it wholesale across all the elective offices of our government. At the moment, 990 House of Assembly, 360 House of Rep members, 109 senators. If they can just uphold simple procedure at that level, do you know what it could do to violence in elections? I have a 9-year-old, 11 and 13-year-old. Would it not be nice for me to go to the election booth with my children while they're playing football and go and cast my vote? I am not going to allow politicians. I do not want to urge them to keep on recycling this that it's a wrong decision. It's not. If you check out section 285-246, both of them make clear that this is in accordance with spirit and text of the Constitution. And I want the appeal to be bold. Tomorrow they will be the Supreme Court. They can move this what you call doctrine up to that level. That old one needs to go. It's a horrible one.
Talking about internal democracy, like now what is happening in Plateau State, and a lot of Nigerians have commended President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for not interfering in judicial matters concerning elections in Nigeria. He has been commended well. But is there a way the government at the center can wade into this issue in Plateau State to ensure that peace reigns?
You have to give credit where credit is due. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he's a Democrat. He's a product of democracy. He has benefited immensely from it. And truncating it not in any sense, benefiting this late in his life. And so, let's say that. But secondly, I'm not one of those who give people commendations for not doing what they're not supposed to do. He has no constitutional right to interfere in that place in the first place. There's nothing to be gained by interfering there in the second place. And so, why should we be praising people for omitting to do what they shouldn't have been doing in the first place simply because it was done that way in the past? And so, I think we should urge him to show even greater restraint in the ones that he's interfering in. Again, I go back to the issue of republicanism. That is what is at the heart of what's happening right now. What kind of government we want to have? We want to have a monarchy where the Supreme Court believes that because it's called supreme, any final appellate powers exercised by another level of the court can be excoriated. It does not line up with their view of the court. They are supposed to be, under the Constitution, limited. Government is what you have. In a system like ours, it's going to work. So the president is limited. He ought to know his boundaries clearly and give to them. Judiciary ought to know their boundary. Also, the legislature, if they do that, not doing what they're not supposed to do is part of what gets a government to work well, gets a country to work well. In fact, most of the powers of the country are reserved in the people, not in government. When government begin to tell they can do everything for you, what you're going to have is what you have like inefficiency, promises given that cannot be fulfilled because they just cannot fulfill it. They don't have what takes to fulfill it. So there's a lot of powers, if you ask me now, that are in the judiciary that needs to come out from there. I believe the NJC has not served Nigeria well in any form or shape. Look at 1999 to date, ever since we went the NJC route, the incestual sourcing of personnel for the judiciary where they appoint themselves, where you take away that responsibility from those who are going to elective offices, who need to make it part of the electionary campaigns. So people know that election have consequences, even to how justice is done in Nigeria. NJC was a power-grabbing platform. And so there are many things that we need to take away from so many arms of government and return back to what you call limited governance. So people understand restraint is a good thing. An adult with no restraint is a teenager. And we have too many persons in government today who are basically operating in teenage mode, thinking that they can do and not do. For instance, let me just say this and I will close. I report cases. You find out that cases reported in the 1950s, 1940s, 1930s, there's a certain level of judicial gravity. They want to disagree with the lower court at the lowest level. It is with due respect. It is all kinds of adjectives just to say we're about to disagree, but we're not trying in any way to put down these people that are doing a hard work and they get it right most of the time. That trend has changed. Right from since the NJC class of judges or justices came to the Supreme Court. Read the cases and I do it every single day. It's getting coarser, and Coasa. Why? Because that restraint is no longer.
Thank you very much, Sam Eleni, for your contribution there. We sincerely appreciate your coming on the program to discuss the issue in Plateau. Thank you for coming on Good Morning Nigeria. Now we come back to the studio. Let's get a parting shot from Gregory.
Well, all Nigerians should have faith in that democracy and the judiciary. The judiciary especially, they meant well for Nigerians. We can't destroy our institutions. We can only work to improve them.
We cannot destroy our institutions. We can only work to improve them. Thank you so much, Gregory, for coming today. Good Morning Nigeria. Thank you very much. Now it's time to take sports. Let's have